So when we talk about public spaces, we're not just talking about parks, although parks and green spaces are definitely important because they have wonderful community benefits. But also, think about plazas, gathering places where people come together like libraries, open spaces like natural areas and waterfronts, and also sidewalks and bus stops. All these places are places where people can come together in the public realm. All of these places are what we're talking about when we say vibrant public spaces, and that's what we want residents to have an impact on through the challenge. So this goes to the Miami Foundation's larger goal of getting a great public space within walking distance of every Miamian. No matter where you are in Miami, we want you to be able to go out of your door and have a safe walk to a place where you can come together with your friends, your family, your community. When we say walking distance, we really mean about a quarter mile or a 5 to 10 minute walk for you to get to these places. So consider that as you're thinking about the challenge. Think about the places near your home or your office that could be more engaging with a little bit of love. The Public Space Challenge is an ideas competition, so we want your best ideas for activating, improving, or creating new public spaces across the county. We'd love to see your creativity and innovation. We've received a ton of really great and unique ideas over the years, so don't be afraid to think inside or outside of the box. Think about activating a place. That's a place that isn't used as much as it probably should be. What can you change to get people into it and make it more vibrant? Think about improving. That's a place that may be lacking certain things or is not maintained as well as it could be. Think about creating new public spaces. These may be empty lots or street corners where you may want to make something new. Most importantly, and one of the coolest things about the program is that anyone can apply to the Public Space Challenge, and that's been critical to its success. This is not just for nonprofits, it's for every Miamian to submit their ideas. We'd love to hear from individuals, organizations, businesses, for-profits, nonprofits, government, and we've had all kinds of winners over the past 5 years. So if you're listening to this, you live in Miami-Dade County, and you have an idea for a public space in Miami-Dade County, you are eligible to apply. To show some Miami pride, we're investing up to $305,000 in the best ideas this year. And we're really excited to announce a continued partnership with Target, who is coming in to support the Public Space Challenge ideas that focus on healthy eating and active play for youth and their families in Miami-Dade County. So anyone with healthy eating and active play ideas, there's a little bit of an extra incentive for you to be submitting your ideas this year. Now I'm going to pass it over to Martha Viciedo from Urban Impact Lab. We work with Urban Impact Lab on helping to provide education and technical assistance to folks submitting to the Public Space Challenge. She'll share some great public space ideas to help you get in the creative mindset of your idea.
Great, thank you, Jordan, and thank you for everybody that has joined us this afternoon. I have the wonderful pleasure of showing off some amazing Public Space Challenge ideas that have won over the last few years, and then I will try to get you a little bit more inspired with some ideas that are outside of Miami. So getting started, one of the first ones that is on the screen now, and I will try to be as descriptive as possible for anybody that's joined via phone call. On the screen right now, we have a picture of a parking lot. It's literally a parking lot that sits in the middle of Biscayne Boulevard, our beautiful intersection, our beautiful street in the heart of downtown Miami. It connects downtown Miami to Bayside and Bayfront Park. And in the middle of this street, there's just lots of empty cars that sit parked. The Miami Downtown Development Authority, along with multiple other partners, had a really great idea. And they said, hey, you know, what if this empty space could become a wonderful place for people to gather rather than, again, just empty cars? And on the screen now, you'll see what those parking lots became. The project was called Biscayne Green. They were a 2017 Public Space Challenge winner. The activation went for a whole month, and with a lot of partners, the Miami Downtown Development Authority put turf down, they put mulch, they put seating out there. They actually activated 2 of the parking lots. They filled it with activities. The picture on the screen right now is of one of the Sunday puppy brunches. So anybody in this growing neighborhood that's downtown Miami could come down. It's pet friendly, and they can enjoy some live music, some good food, and of course, get to know their community and create amazing new connections, as well as re-envision this public space. Because I do want to remind everybody, our streets, our street network, which consists, it makes up a pretty large portion of our community, is the largest expanse of public space that we have within Miami-Dade County. Next up, I want to show you another Public Space Challenge winner. This was also from 2017. The project is called Public Hives. The challenge winner is Danielle Bender, and she really felt that, particularly right after different, like Zika, the Zika outbreak, our bee population had declined. She really understood the importance of bees as cross-pollinators, the importance that they play in our healthy ecosystem. And she also saw an opportunity to bring that awareness to local communities, again, improve on the greenness of our community, and provide an educational and artistic outlet. So what Danielle did is not only create some public beehives, but she has created an entire educational program around it. Anybody that is interested could come to her. You could reserve, you could go to publichives.org. You could reserve, make a reservation to come and visit, and she will deck you out head to toe, covered suits, gloves, everything. And you'll get a chance to look at the hives. You'll get a chance to learn about bees. You can bring children, anybody from the community, and the hives themselves have been, the crates that they're held in have been decorated by local public artists. So it is a beautiful project that is now expanded to 3 locations, and it is currently continuing to expand. And the Public Space Challenge dollars provided that seed money to really get it off the ground, and it's only growing. The next project I want to show you, and it's something that this is a really particularly beautiful project. In 2014, the Public Space Challenge awarded Sabrina Cohen from the Sabrina Cohen Foundation a small seed grant to make the beach a very often overlooked public space. We sort of take it for granted that we live in this amazing tropical environment and we have this open access to the waterfront. But she really wanted to make the waterfront and that experience available to anybody, including people that may be temporarily or permanently bound to a wheelchair. So what she proposed was putting hard mats, blue hard mats, on the sand that extend back into the sidewalk so that people in regular wheelchairs could wheel out onto the beach, and then they could be transferred onto these unique retrofitted wheelchairs that have these big yellow wheels that will move easily in the sand, but the armrests are also these big yellow floaties. The wheelchairs are able to go into the water. And if you look on the screen now, you will see a young lady who would otherwise never get the chance to experience being in the ocean freely and comfortably. She's sitting in a wheelchair with some volunteer assistance and really enjoying something that is, I would say, iconic to Miami, and that experience of being in the beach in the warm weather. Next up, we have a project from Little Havana. This one is a really fun, interesting project. The residents of Little Havana have long been feeling that one of their parks in their community felt a little unsafe. They also recognize that one of the ways to improve that perception of safety, or rather to help people feel like they can bring their children to the park safely, was to bring more activity to the park. And that's something that they really were yearning to do. So together with the Children's Trust, and really a community-led activity though, they created this idea of Fiestas de Agua, which translates to water festivals. And in the winter months, what they did they brought in lots of ice and turned it into snow and created a couple snow days for their community. And I can tell you, my partner and I went out because, of course, we had been involved in helping them implement this. We wanted to see these snow days in action, and the entire park and everything around it was so packed, we could not find a spot to park so we could just jump out and, take a couple pictures. It was a hugely successful activation, and it is still continuing. It's now continuing into the summer and will continue with regular water activities. And the name allows for it, frozen water, regular water. The idea allows for all sorts of different interpretations and activations. Next up, I'm going to move now out of previously funded public space challenge projects and highlight other things that have happened in other communities. What's on the screen now is a project called the Whispering Dishes from San Francisco. This is a larger scale project, and it was done in partnership with the community, the city's Exploratorium, which is a science museum. But what they did was they took this large public plaza, lots of people walking, but obviously it's right next to a street, very busy, very loud. And they did this semi-art installation, somewhat science, somewhat art, where they created this concrete disc and a little bit of a seating around it with some wood paneling to help with the acoustics. So they created one on each side of the plaza, and they face each other. So if you imagine, there's these big concrete discs and a seat in front, and they're at quite a distance from each other. But if a stranger sat in one, or it could be a friend, sat in one, and then somebody else sits in the other, and they whisper, the dish catches the sound, and you can hear it normal, the communication being received. And that happens amid like a chaotic, busy downtown San Francisco street. So it's a really interesting project, and it's a cool way to talk about science, but also just talk to somebody that you may not otherwise talk to, just even talk to a random stranger. It's fun, it's playful, and it's also a beautiful installation. Going through a couple more. The image now is from a night market in Cleveland, Ohio. And one of the things that we found here locally is that our communities, particularly some of the communities like in for instance, Little Havana, they've mentioned, oh, we do night markets in my country that I come from, rather than regular daytime farmers markets. Here in Miami, we have a tendency to do them like on Sunday mornings or Saturday maybe. But some people that live in Miami have a different experience of these open markets. And we saw this interesting interpretation of this that they do in Cleveland. It's not exactly a farmer's market, but it is an activation on a street, again, leveraging streets as public spaces and turning it into a fun kind of market environment where people can meet each other, they can hang out, they could buy groceries, buy anything really, and it was a fun activation. So just thinking about moving these kind of activations that typically happen downtown or in Wynwood and moving them out into communities that perhaps a different interpretation of them would really be beneficial. And then just two more. The one that is on the screen now is a STEM station parklet. STEM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics. So some clever folks, again, in partnership with the Exploratorium in San Francisco, created this interesting little parklet. And for reference, a parklet is a public space that takes up the space of one parked car, sometimes two parked cars, but no more than no more than about two on-street parking spaces in the middle of a city. So wherever you would park downtown, you would actually turn that into a mini public space. And what they did was that they turned it into basically a little mini science lab. A really interesting interpretation of what a parklet can be. It's engaging, it's educational, and it hits a lot of different marks, and it really enlivens a block in a very unique way. And then the last one that I want to show you, particularly where Miami is with its growing soccer energy and momentum, is from Sao Paulo in Brazil. This is a bus stop, and so what they did was they converted a bus stop into a goal, or maybe they did a soccer goal and they turned it into a bus stop. I'm not sure which one came first, but essentially they made it really fun and playful just to come and take a bus ride. Locally, I think that has some interesting applications, as we all recognize that our public transportation experience isn't always something that's pleasant and fun. What if more of our bus stops, which are, again, public spaces, looked a little bit more engaging and fun to be with, or fun to be in? So with that, I hope that I covered a little bit of the different types of applications where public space challenge ideas could really flourish and really grow. The biggest takeaway that I would like everyone to think about is that a public space challenge idea is really about taking something you care about, you know, thinking back to Danielle Bender and her bees, or thinking to the STEM Parklet Station from San Francisco and science and education. Maybe you care about folks that are seniors or elderly. There's lots of different things that we all really care about as community members. What is it that you care about, and how might you create a really wonderful experience for other community members to share in, but do that in a public space? So you're leveraging those public spaces to really deliver more community growth, more community integration, and really benefiting lots and lots of people, as well as just benefiting our community long term. With that, I'm going to turn it back over for a moment to Jordan to talk about what it looks like to submit. PS, or hint, hint, it's very, very simple. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, and then we'll take your questions.
That was a great point. Thanks for that, Martha. Well, now that we have some inspiration, we're going to go over the submission process. The first thing I want to say is, and Martha just touched on it, if you have an idea, you should absolutely submit it. We've designed the process to be extremely simple. As you'll see here, this is a map. You can see on your screen that this is actually where you go to submit an idea. If you can access your browser now, I'd encourage you to go to publicspacechallenge.org so you can follow along and see the map live. Here you'll see people are submitting ideas and commenting ideas actually in real time right now. So the important thing to know is all you have to do is drop a pin somewhere on this map and answer 2 easy questions. My idea to improve this place is, and so that people could. That's it. We'll ask for a project title and some other contact information and things like that. But if you're if you're concerned about whether or not you're able to do this this project, whether it be the budgeting, the permitting, or anything else, don't worry too much about that right now. We're happy to help with that in coming steps. So just go ahead and check out the map and submit your idea. So I'll pass it back to Martha so she can walk you through the submission process in a little more detail.
Wonderful. So I'm going to pretend that you all are really excited and now you're really inspired. And so you are going to go to publicspacechallenge.org straight away. And the very first thing that you will do is click on Add an Idea, and it's the greenish button that is at the lower left-hand side of your screen. The very next page that will pop up is a page that has 2 different windows open at the same time. One is a map, and that's to the left of the screen. The other one is a narrative box, like a box where you would write answers to some questions, and that's on the right of the screen. Before you start writing in your answers, your title, or your answers to your question, make sure that the map exactly points to the location, and you do that by zooming in as close as possible. There's some plus and minus signs at the top of the screen. So zoom in on the map, you drag the map over and make sure that you drop it. There's a red pin, make sure that you drop that pin basically where the idea is located. Once you do that, then you'll come back over to your questions. And this part is pretty simple. The first question is the title of my project. Now, the title, I would urge anybody listening and anybody that you all speak to, please try to think of creating titles that are somewhat catchy, that are playful, that are fun, that would get attention. I'm mentioning that because the foundation does receive hundreds of ideas every year, and we really want your ideas to stand out and to shine. Some ideas like the Beehive, their title was Public Hives. It was short, it was sweet, it was to the point. You can get really creative here, and I would urge you to spend a little extra time and think about making a project title that's catchy. Well, once you've done that, there's two main questions. The first one is, my idea to improve this place is, and you're going to explain what your idea exactly is. Again, these are questions that are geared to really highlight what is the idea. You don't have to go into the funding, how you would get permits. You don't have to get into all those details. We really want this idea to shine through. Is it on the street? Is it in a parking lot? Is it in a park? Do you think it's low cost? Do you think it's just going to bring lots of community members together? So really let your idea shine. And then the second question is, so that people could. And I think that should give you a little bit of a hint of what we were talking about earlier. When we're talking about creating these wonderful public space challenge ideas, what are people experiencing? How are their lives better once they've come to this park? And it could be as simple as they're relaxing, maybe they're learning something, maybe they're having a creative experience. So really highlight what people's experiences will be based on this project or this activation, this installation. I do want to point your attention to the fact that each one of these three questions, including the title, is character limited. The title has 100 characters. The other two questions are 750 characters, and I want to make sure it's characters, not words. So do a little bit of playing around, maybe in a Google Doc or in a Word document, and make sure that your idea is coming through clearly, because it is a little bit short and you have to get to the point pretty succinctly. One of the things that I would suggest is sharing it with a neighbor, with a friend, with a partner, and having them, don't tell them anything about the idea, just share the answers to these questions and make sure that they're getting out of it what you want them to get out of it. That's the hard part, guys. I mean, once you've done that, you are good to go. The rest of the submission process is very simple. This is basically, it's a scroll down window. So once you answer those three questions with the title and the two main questions, you're going to scroll down. You're going to see 4 buttons, and you're going to pick one. Now, I get it that a lot of ideas fit into multiple categories, but please try to pick the one bucket that it fits the most in. So parks and natural areas, pretty self-explanatory, anything that's a park. Greenways and blueways. Blueways are like canals or things along the water. A greenway would be something like the Underline project, which is a linear park, or creating a green corridor. Safe routes to parks, those are your streets, your transit stops, different ways that you would get to a park. And then the public spaces category is a little bit of a catch-all, plazas, libraries, other things that don't necessarily fall into the other categories. To wrap this up, you'll put an approximate address in here. You will upload an image and or share a link. Please, listeners, please do this. You are more than welcome to go to Google, get an idea of what your project, you get an idea, an ideal image of what your idea is. It doesn't have to be your picture. It doesn't have to be a rendering you've created, but please include an image because it really helps all of the reviewers get their minds around what it is that you are suggesting. And then you will complete the application by adding your name, an organization, if that's applicable, your email and your phone number. That information, your contact information will not be made public, but it is for us to contact you. And then once you're done with that, you're going to hit the last button that says post it to the map. and voila, a little pin will show up in the location that you chose. The picture that you picked will also pop up with your name and the description of your idea. Now, the last thing that you have to do is, once you submit this, share it with your friends. Have people come and comment on it. Go to other people's ideas and comment on it. Have them like it. All of that interaction is very valuable to the refinement of these ideas, but also keep in mind that as the challenge progresses, the ideas with the most amount of likes and the most amount of engagement do seem to rise up to the top, and we want to see that as well. So that is the download on how you submit. Jordan is going to cover a couple of quick dates and some wrap it up, and then we're going to answer your questions.
Thanks, Martha. So the big important date is the closing date for the challenge, which is May 3rd at 11:59 p.m. We highly encourage you to get your idea in early, because then more people will see it on the website and you'll have a better opportunity to collect likes and comments, as Martha said. And just so you know, this in particular, the likes and the comments is something that our reviewers take into account when reviewing and selecting finalists. So the more likes and comments that you get, the more you share it, the better it is for your idea and for your project. Because it's great to have some traction out there, because it shows us that people support what you're doing and really like the idea. Other than the submission closing on May 3rd at 11:59 p.m., the other two important dates to note is that we'll announce finalists in June, and then those finalists will work through a full proposal process with us, and then we'll announce winners in October of this year. All of this information, together with frequently asked questions and additional workshop dates and helpful resources, can be found at publicspacechallenge.org. So now we are going to move on to some questions. And just as a reminder, for anyone that wasn't here at the beginning, if you look at the bottom right hand of your screen, you'll see a question panel, where if you just click that to open it up, you can ask questions directly to Martha and myself.
I do want to highlight a couple of the questions that are being asked in case they spur up some other questions. So we have questions about if the link that you would include can be a Facebook link or some other social media, and absolutely yes. You can create a Facebook page for your project, and that could be a private or a public page, and allow us to view it. It could be an Instagram page, it could be a Tumblr site. So you can get pretty creative with what you create, as long as it helps us and the foundation and any of the reviewers really understand the idea. About likes and comments. So one distinction, and that's a really great question, thank you for asking. One distinction I want to point out is if you share your idea, you can take the link that's at the top of the little window, the URL link to your idea. Each idea has a unique website. It ends with a series of numbers. If you take that web address and you copy paste it into Facebook, for example, your idea will pop up, and even the picture will pop up. The only thing that you should be mindful of is that that will not turn back into likes and comments on the publicspacechallenge.org site. So repeat that will not turn back into engagement on the actual project page on the Public Space Challenge site. So you may want to consider directing people to the challenge site rather than engaging on social media without us being able to see it when the time comes to review all that.
I'll just add to another way for your friends or family members or anybody that could be interested in liking or commenting on your idea. Another way for them to get to your project is to, if you see at the top right-hand corner of the Public Space Challenge screen, there's a big purple button that says List Ideas. So if you click that button, the map will actually turn into a vertical search bar of all of the ideas that have been submitted to this point, and there is a search function in the top right-hand corner. So you can either share the link that Martha said that you have when you submit your idea, or you can share the name of your project and people can find your project that way to like and comment.
A couple of the questions that have popped up in the past, people have asked whether you can submit more than one idea, or you can submit multiple ideas, and that is certainly a possibility. We do urge you to consider that if you or your organization submits 10 ideas, it becomes a little bit difficult to understand what your priorities may be. So please consider submitting 2, maybe 3 ideas, but not going way to too many ideas, because then it becomes a little bit difficult for the selection committee to choose any. Another question that just came up was, what type of materials will be requested if my idea is selected? And that's an excellent question. Once the submission period ends and the finalists are selected, the finalists will receive a full proposal package. It has been designed to be on the simpler end. What I want you all to keep in mind is that our team at Urban Impact Lab will work directly with you to answer the questions, to create, to help create the budget, to help think through and refine the idea, what the permitting might be, all of the questions that might keep you up at night or even make you feel like you may not be able to handle the implementation of the project. We will work directly with you to help you wrap your mind around and help steer you into the context you need and the information that you need to gather. So we really don't want you to feel overwhelmed. You will have the support you need in implementing this project. And even before then, in getting that finalist package back into the Miami Foundation.
Another question we just received, how many winning ideas will be selected? So there's no preset number of ideas that are selected. Just so you know, last year there were 21 winning ideas, and in previous years there were as many as 17 and 19. So it really just depends on each project that's selected as a winner, and then the amount of funding that seems necessary in order to make the project successful, really get it off the ground and give it some legs so that it can be properly implemented. And then with that, just to add on to that point, so as we mentioned earlier, this year we'll be giving awarding up to $305,000. So there is no preset number of dollars that is awarded to each project. Again, just to reiterate, projects are given funding, but based on how much money they really need to get started and get moving. So in the past, there's been winners have been awarded anywhere between $4,000 to $25,000 to get their projects started.
Another question that came in, and Jordan, I'll ask you to verify this. Somebody is asking how long will they have to get their materials together if they were to be selected as a finalist. I believe the finalist period is about 5 or 6 weeks long.
Yes, that's correct. So the finalist phase in which you would submit a full proposal, and again, we're here to provide support from a technical assistance perspective. That process is about 5 to 6 weeks before you need to submit, and then the winner's review process happens.
Alrighty. We're still looking at the questions panels. There's a couple that have been answered in with other questions. Do you all are there questions that feel like they haven't been answered? Please just join in that conversation in the questions panel. Let us know if you feel like something hasn't been answered or needs further clarification, and we're happy to do that.
One other thing that I just wanted to point out in terms of a question that we commonly receive. So oftentimes people like to submit a project that is way beyond the means of what we're able to provide in terms of financial support. So again, generally the max limit for Public Space Challenge funding is about $25,000, and oftentimes people have bigger aspirational projects or just these large-scale projects. So when you're thinking about the Public Space Challenge, try to think about maybe breaking down your project into smaller, more manageable and achievable goals from time to time. And then when it comes to the challenge, maybe submitting an idea specifically for that one piece, and then think of that as a building block towards the overall goal. Because similar to the Foundation's goal of getting a great public space within walking distance of every Miamian, you can view the Public Space Challenge as a vehicle to kind of get to your end goal for your project.
And something else to point out along those lines, sometimes people ask, are you only funding permanent ideas or short-term ideas? And the answer has generally been a little bit of all of those. The foundation really does strive to support different types of ideas. Some of them are pop-up and temporary. Some of them will be promotional or like events kind of things. Some of them will be more long-term installations. So we are looking for a mix of all of these ideas. Also, target audiences, youth, seniors, children with like a particular type of education, like we highlighted the STEM education, but also arts education. We've had some previous public space challenge ideas that became winners that targeted people that are in hospitals, or the hospital, rather, it's not just people that are in hospitals, the hospital community or the healthcare community, bringing music and an event around music out to that community, right in the middle of the healthcare district. So different types of audiences, different types of ideas, and different types of experiences all are considered. We have a question about the format size for the pictures. You should keep in mind that you can really upload one file. You can't upload multiple pictures, but the format size, I would just say almost like if it was a presentation deck, that like if it was a slide on PowerPoint or Keynote, whatever you use, that's kind of the thing that you would look for. You could upload a PDF or a JPEG or a GIF file. The format isn't exclusive to one type. Let's see, any other questions? Oh, very quickly, I do want to point your attention, when you have a moment, to the publicspacechallenge.org site. There is a tab that's called Workshops and Resources. We have a few in-person workshops coming up. One will be in Little Havana. The other one will be at Venture Cafe, which is sort of between Allapattah and Wynwood, between Allapattah, Wynwood, Overtown, and the Health District. It's sort of in the middle of those four areas. And then the last one will be down in Southdade, and that one will actually be like an open question information session. So please check on that tab. Come meet us. We'll be there. We're happy to answer your questions. We want all your questions, and we want to see great projects. So we're happy to help you think through your ideas.
Great. So that looks like, oh, we have one more question.
Where can we hear this webinar again?
Yeah, so the webinar is actually being recorded. So if you go to publicspacechallenge.org, actually to that workshops and resources tab that Martha was just mentioning, there will be a YouTube link back to a recording of this webinar. So you can check this out, whenever over the next couple weeks. Okay, well, great. So thank you to everyone for participating on the webinar today. Thanks for being with us and the patience at the beginning, and thanks for your interest in the Public Space Challenge. We hope to see your ideas out there on the site, and we'd love to see you commenting and liking other ideas that are out there, because it's all about getting great public spaces across Miami-Dade County. Thanks also to our sponsor, Target, and the Miami-Dade County Department of Parks, Recreation, and Open Spaces for their partnership in this year's challenge. So thanks, and have a wonderful afternoon.
Bye.